Welcome to another episode of me reviewing highlights. As always, you can jump straight away to whichever passage you want using the chapter links in the description, and you'll also find the links to the books themselves in the description. So, with that, let's get started. And with our first highlight, that's from Soul Boom. In probably the ultimate metaphor of multi-faith interdependence on this volatile chunk of land, Muslims, besides having a mosque that sits on the most holy place in Judaism, hold the key to most holy Christian location in the world, all under the jurisdiction of a country governed by the Jews. So this book, it's pointing out, there is a whole chapter which is talking about Jerusalem, and so apparently the Church of Holy Sepulchre. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And so yeah, that the key to that church, apparently it's being it's being passed in through many generations. I think if I remember correctly, the book mentioned something like 900 years that this key is under the possession of a Muslim family. There was a story that it was during a invasion. I'm forgetting which invasion. That the key was given to this family, and they have held it since then. And I thought this was a nice passage to remember. So there's not much to talk about over here. It's just a cool historical fact. We'll move on. Wrong fit, right fit. Dedication is a daily choice, and right fit is awaiting us all if we look really hard for it and work every day to keep it. Right. So the book is, or at least this passage is making it clear that the way you focus and the way you find that right fit, it's through a deliberate effort, and you're going to be dedicated to it. It's a daily choice, like this passage says, and the the reality is that we change. The organizations we are in, they change, and every day it could be an entirely different experience, wherever you're working. And that is why it's not very often, it's like, of course, we change every day, but a right fit doesn't magically turn into wrong fit uh, immediately. It's not instant. It's a long time coming, and that is why we have to be deliberate about finding the right ways for us to work so that we can be productive, and we find the right fit in whichever organization we are working in. Because if we are not productive, we are not going to enjoy our work. Contrary to most beliefs, most human beings, most people, they want to find somewhere they can be productive. Of course, like that's whole other discussion that, I think I'm going towards that discussion from Drive, the book, right? So having all that on one side, um, I mean, if you kind of base off your thoughts from that book, that human beings do want to make a difference, right? And if you want to make a difference, if you want to be productive, you would want to be productive, right? And so if you want to be productive, you have to be dedicated to finding the right fit in where you work. Moving on, hidden potential. But according to a growing body of evidence, the decline in the rate of language learning around 18 is not a feature of our biology. It's a bug in our education, right? So I think this is towards the beginning of the book itself. I think probably in the first chapter, the author points out several examples, of polyglots who pick up languages so easily, um, or I think who picked up languages at really advanced ages. And I'm forgetting the specifics, why that was special. But it turns out that the what we believe that learning languages in childhood, uh, that's better. It turns out it's not better. It's not a feature of our biology. We can learn anything we want at any time. So the differentiator in these people who learned language at such an advanced age, it was that they wanted to. They got uncomfortable. They wanted to. The chapter goes into like a whole detailed thing. This passage is pointing out that it's not a feature of our biology. There's nothing in our body that makes us stop learning new languages at when we reach 18, or at any age. We can always keep learning. Moving on, the Song of Significance. We've added a lot of veneer to the ugly truth of how industrial managers see their employees, but the reality hasn't changed much. If humans are a resource, then we are here to squeeze them. This leads to bullying, to burnout, to harassment, and to systems based on injustice and unfairness instead of possibility. Management and industrialism have been done to workers, not with them. Right. I feel there's not much for me to talk about over here. There is, of course, the reference to that human resources over here, which I love to talk about all the time. But I also think I've talked about it enough. Right. So I think we are at the beginning of a change in how we see people in companies. Interestingly, I'm reading this other book, Deming's Journey to the Profound Knowledge. I think I'm messing up the title. I'll put it in the description. And that also that this Edward Deming, the book, it's kind of like a not exactly a biography, but it's kind of like a journey of like story of Edward Deming, and he's from like I think 30s and 40s and 50s, like in that period when which we kind of like think of as peak of industrialism and everything. And his theory, it's like the human psychology is a core part of it. So this notion of human beings being a replaceable cog in some corporate system, that has never worked, even in mid 1900s. So yeah, I think we're seeing that more and more now with many organizations turning to focus towards human beings rather than treating them as cogs. And this book is kind of like a manifesto towards that same goal. Let's move on. Wrong fit, right fit. Maybe we could talk less about aspirational culture and talk more about how the company works day to day. We could seek to know ourselves better and our preferred ways of working before we look for a new gig or hire more talent. We could make the interview process more vulnerable and authentic by showing who we are on most days, not simply our best. We could hire for who we are today and develop everyone for who we need to be tomorrow. So the book is pointing out that many companies, the messages during recruitment and everything, they are highly aspirational. As in, the company is not there yet, but they want to be that. And what ends up happening is that when somebody joins that company and they're expecting that culture that is being reflected in that aspirational messages, they don't find that. And obviously, they feel cheated. That where did I join? It's like all of whatever we heard before. It's completely false. So the author is pointing towards that fact and saying that rather than talking about aspirational culture, tell who you are today and what you're working towards. Um, Make that very very clear so that people can match that. Okay, will they be somebody who is fit, somebody who can thrive at that organization? That's the point of this passage. The whole book really, it's like making it apparent what the company is doing on a day to day, finding that out, making it apparent in like different processes. Moving on, the Song of Significance. The foundation of all real skills is this one: the confidence and permission to talk to one another, not to manage, belittle, intimidate, or control, simply to seek to be understood and to do the work to understand. Right. I'm just trying to place it. Which section does this come into? And I can't. The topic of the highlight is fairly straightforward. That the underlying of all real skills is communication. It's people skills. Another book that I recently read, Ideal Team Player, in that the author kind of like summarizes, who is a team player in these three things, uh, three attributes, traits: uh, hunger, smart, and like a ideal team player is somebody who is hungry, who is smart, and one more attribute I'm forgetting, humble. Yeah. So smart in this case is referring to somebody who has the people smarts, who knows how to talk to people. The like not to manage, belittle, intimidate, but to understand, to seek to be understood. That way, that communication skill. So yeah, I think, like I said, not much to add on over here. Moving on, hidden potential. If our cognitive skills are what separates us from animals, our character skills are what elevate us above machines. Right. So cognitive skills, of course, our ability to reason, our ability to to think rationally. That's what separates us from animals. So our character skills are what elevates us above machines. The character skills being, I'm sure that I'm forgetting something, but they're referring to skills where, that's the topic of the book. Wow, I completely forgot all of it. It's not an enumerated list of skills as such, but it's more like skills that kind of expose our potential, as in like bring out our potential. Expose is the wrong word. So it's things like persistence, not in the same language though. Um, I, I think I'll probably do a better job at describing those traits rather than listing them out. So it's the ability to get uncomfortable in situations. It's the our ability to seek progress, not perfection, not to be perfect, but to always keep getting better, keep improving, to react to situations, to react to what is happening to us in a way which will enable self growth. Those are the character skills, and many others. The book is, of course, it's kind of like slipping out of me right now. It's kind of leaking out of me, but yeah, that's those are the kind of character skills the author is referring to. Moving on to the Song of Significance, I think this is the third highlight from that day today. Our role isn't to simply fit in or to make or to comply. Our job is not to follow precise instructions. The coordinated hum and motion of the hive is a message for each of us. A vivid story about waking up from a culture induced torpor to get back to what really matters. To not only reclaim the agency that is our humanity, but to open the door for others to find it as well. So again, like I said, this is a manifesto, so it's very much that language, as you can see over here. It's not to Our job is not to follow precise instructions, like that just makes us machines, really, right? So it's the value that we bring, the human nature, the human touch that we bring to everything that we do, the creativity, um, I suppose that's the word that sums it all up, the creativity that we bring as human beings, right? So to not only reclaim the agency that is our humanity, but to open the door for others to find it as well. Okay, so it's not just our own um, our own capability to work in that manner, but to also enable others to work in a similar manner. In organizations, you're bringing up everybody that way. So with that, let's move on. Choose possibility. Psychologists posit that fear of the unknown might be our most basic fear, or as one scholar puts it, one fear to rule them all. Some suspect that uncertainty ruffles us because it confronts us with the need to navigate more complexity in our decision making. Right. So this book is about experimentation. Keep experimenting, keep choosing possibility, like the title says. That it's kind of like a wake up call, especially to to me, to people like me, where who are kind of uh, shall I say perfectionists, and who needs everything to be perfect before they make a move. I'm describing myself here, right? So why do we want it to be perfect? Because we want to cover all the different things that could be unknown over here. We basically want to know everything that might happen, and then build a contingency for each and everything that can possibly happen. And I'm talking about 100%, not like a reasonable amount, like a healthy amount where you need to build contingencies. Of course, you need to build contingencies. It's common sense, but to what extent? At certain point, you have to get started, and perfectionists don't. They'll always think that there is something else that they need to cover. So that's what the passage is referring to. That our fear of unknown might be our most basic fear. That the uncertainty ruffles us. It Because it confronts us with the need to navigate more complexity in our decision making. Right? Let's move on. Getting things done. Getting things done requires two basic components: defining what done means and what doing looks like. And these are far from self evident for most people about most things that have their attention. So, the author is pointing out that it's like getting things done, it's like very simply put, it can be reduced to two things: figuring out what done means. What do you call when when something is done? How do you know that when something is done? And what would it look like? The doing. What would it look like? How do you know the action part of it? And how do you know that you're making action? You're doing some action. Basically, what does it look like? And this sounds simple. Well, these are simple, but these sound easy, and they're not easy. It's very, very difficult to kind of imagine what done looks like. It's in software engineering, it's all that matters. A lot of confusion stems from this fact when people don't agree on what done looks like. It leads to misunderstanding and everything. And similarly, what doing looks like. This is also something that could be like easily misinterpreted. Most often, in my experience, I've seen that most people stumble at this first step. What done means. How do you know when something is done? And a lot of different challenges over here, right? Like, no, it's not just okay. How do you know when it is completed? But what would you agree as in a team also, in an organization? What would you agree that okay, this is that we're all aligned that this is done, this particular action, documenting that, getting to that part, and then what doing looks like. And of course, the getting done things done system, it's kind of built on this notion, listing out what doing is. That's the philosophy of the system, not to write down what done looks like, but I mean in terms of managing your tasks, but to write down what doing looks like, the next action that you need to take. That's again, we have discussed that in many other places. So I think with that, we are at the end of our highlights today. And again, moderate, I think like we are on our average time of 15 to 16 minutes. So with that, you have a good rest of the day and take care.